Hey viewers, my name's Kara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and while we've talked about having issues with people in our household or people in our daily lives being unaccepting of our paths or living in an environment that is hostile to your spiritual path, this week we hear from someone who's having the same issue, but they live in a pagan household. This week's topic, as always, will be in the description, so you can read the full thing in their words. I'm going to try to hit some highlights here, things that are really important for me to talk about. It's really hard for me to get this into a short video. This is the third time I'm trying, because I just want it to be more concise, but you know I have a problem with that, and this is something that I'm really passionate about, but also kind of rambly. So this topic really upsets me. As you all know, I've done a lot of work with prejudice against pagans, and I've talked about how it's not just from people outside the community. It also comes from people inside the community. It also, to some extent, comes from ourselves. We're too hard on ourselves in a lot of ways. But what this is about is that in-group prejudice. Prejudice and discrimination in some cases, I guess in some ways, just being mean, coming from people within our community, that is the pagan community, people who are also pagan. In a lot of ways, that sucks even more than when it comes from someone outside the pagan community. Because when it's someone outside, you think, well, they're outside, they don't really know, it's not their personal belief. Their personal belief might even have taught them that we are wrong or that we are bad or whatever. So you can kind of, even though it sucks and it's really like awful to experience the ignorance or whatever, there's a little bit more of an understanding of where it comes from and how we can combat that with education and exposure. But when it's within the community, it's weird because you're like, why don't you get it? Like, why, you know, like you're also on this path. So where do you think that you can be like this to another person on the same path or on a different path within the pagan community? You know, it just sucks. Like, why do we do that? And I've definitely gotten comments from people before who are like, well, my path is this, and it says this, therefore I think you should stop doing what you're doing because my path says, and I'm like, whoa, how many times have we gotten mad at non-pagans for saying that to us, so why are we doing it to each other? Stop it. And that's what this situation is about. This is someone within the pagan community who lives in this person's household who is shooting them down about that their beliefs are wrong, saying the way they practice is wrong. One of the comments in their story even said that sometimes just because the way that they believe is differently than what this person believes, that they say their religion is fake. And it's like, what, then what is yours? Like, how is yours real and theirs is fake? Like, it's the, what? Like, no. I don't know these people. I don't know the person in question. I don't know the person who sent in this topic. I don't know the community that they are referring to. I know nothing about the individuals in this specific situation other than the topic that was given. Keeping that in mind, you know, this is hard to talk about, but I'm just going to be honest with you because that's all I can do, right? And that's what you're here for, is to hear my perspective, my pagan perspective. So I'm just going to say, if I came across a person like this who I observed saying these things, doing these things, treating people in this way, I really, really hope that they do not put themselves out there as a leader of community or as a representative of the community or as a teacher, because that's not the way that you do it. You know, as much as we say there's no one right way to do XYZ, that's the wrong way. Like, that is not to go about sharing your path. Like, clearly it's not making the person asking the question feel any better about their path. It's not helping them find anything. It's just making them really uncomfortable and feel unsafe in their home with people who are pagan who should be supporting them. It's not helping. You know, anyone that I come across in the community who says things like so-and-so's version of their path is fake because it disagrees with what I say, or I've actually heard people in online and personal communities that I've, you know, been somewhat involved with or whatever, I've heard people say really ridiculous things, like things that are not only factually incorrect, like that can be easily disproven by fact-checking, but things that are also just really mean and really exclusive, and they're putting that out there as fact, and they're putting that out there as that's what the community is, and it makes me think, you're not someone that I want to be representing me in community. You're not someone that I want to be teaching other people. And yeah, there are teachers who teach lots of different things, and to some extent it's the responsibility of the student to seek out a teacher that is teaching something that they want to learn and something that goes along with them. And I think that there is a lot of benefit in having different teachers teach different ways. I mean, that's part of what this channel does, right? We all have different views that we talk about, but I think there's absolutely a way to do that I like to think that we model here on this channel, that it can be done without saying you're wrong or you shouldn't do this or whatever. So that kind of thing just makes me upset, and it makes me think, like, who are you? One of the other things the questioner mentions is that their younger sibling mentioned having a pagan friend, and this person said no, that person can't be pagan because if they were, they wouldn't be so open about it, and that we should remain in secrecy. Well, obviously a lot of us don't agree with that, because a lot of what we do in education and exposure for the pagan community is to put ourselves out there in somewhat of a public arena, such as this channel, such as YouTube in general, such as pagan pride events that are open to anyone to come and explore and take workshops and see what the vendors are selling and maybe get a reading, attend a public ritual. So obviously there are people who do not agree that we should remain in secrecy, but that is a view that, you know, it's okay that that person holds that view, but I don't think that it's accurate or fair to assume that any person who's talking about their path can't possibly be pagan, because if they were, they wouldn't be open about it. And maybe they were just talking about because this person was so young, but I mean, at 15 and 16 years old, 16 is when I came out to my mom and said, like, this is my path, and I had already been studying it for several years. So I see no reason why a 15 or 16-year-old couldn't actually be pagan and have already mentioned that to their friend, especially if they already know that that friend comes from a pagan household. Like, maybe they've talked about it, you know, they're friends, who knows? I don't think that's so far-fetched, you know? So that's a belief that I think some people can still have. Like, there's the secrecy versus being more public debate. It's not even really a debate, but you know what I mean? But again, that's not somewhere where we should be telling other people that you have to be secret because that's how I believe we should be, or you should be really open to the public because I am. You know, like, we encourage people, or we give people ideas for coming out of the broom closet, or we share our stories about how we did it, but it's always up to you when to do it and with whom you share that information. You are the ultimate authority on your personal spiritual path, okay? Not anybody else, not your parent, not your sibling, not this other person who lives in your household, not anybody in your community. You. It's up to you. It's yours. It's nobody else's. That's case closed, you know? Like, that's it. It's not mine. It's not Rich's, Megan's, Yucca's, Brendan's. It's not any of ours, Danny's, Tati's, JD's. Who am I missing? Who did I not say? I wasn't keeping track. It's not ours, okay? It's yours. And I understand feeling like it's hard because, you know, they said this person's part of the community, so they want it to kind of be smooth. They don't want to, like, cause a lot of trouble or whatever. That's a huge thing for me, because there have absolutely been people in communities, online and in person, that I've come across who are kind of like, you get this feeling, even if no one's specifically said it, they act like they're the ones in charge, like they are the ones you're supposed to listen to, and they're putting themselves out there as being that. They're the ones running things. And like I've said, I've heard people say really exclusive and or also really incorrect things. And I also just get bad vibes from people, like the way that I see them treat other people or the way they interact with me just seems wrong. And so, like, me personally, I have never cared if someone is portrayed as being a huge part of a community or not. If they are not coming across as good representatives, as positive, energetic beings, as good teachers, good leaders, or just good community members. You know, you don't have to be in leadership or be a teacher in order to be a good, healthy, positive member of a community, you know? Just people who make the experience better, people who do their part, you know, whatever. Like, there are people who are building up these great things, but maybe they themselves aren't necessarily that great. And so there's a certain element of having to be thankful for those things that they've created, and absolutely having to recognize that and saying, like, they've done a lot for this community. but not necessarily having to be their number one fan personally, right? So I don't know this person. I don't know what part of the community they are, but I can say that just based on how they treat the people in their household, and I'm assuming that they would then have no problem telling other people who disagree with them that they're wrong, or that their religion is fake, or the way they believe in practice is wrong. And it's like, are they trying to show anybody the way that they think is right? Like, are they teaching? Are they sharing? Are they saying, I don't think that's exactly the best way to do it. Let me show you the way I do it and maybe see if that's better for you. It doesn't seem to add up that people would just say, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm the best, I'm right, blah, whatever. Like, that seems so silly to me. And I know that you said maybe you feel like you can't do this, and I get it because obviously this person is your mom's friend, but I would really hope that you could talk to your mom about this. I hope that any parent would be willing to speak to their child about something as important and exciting to them as their spiritual path. And you don't want your kid to feel like a stranger in their own home. I don't even have kids, and I already know, that's not how it's supposed to work, right? There's a lot here. There's a lot involved in this topic. It really upsets me that this is going on, and it really upsets me that people in the community do this to one another in general. People have called me too universal for being, too okay with things, I guess, or, always wanting to mention, I do it this way, but other people do this and other people do that. And it's not because I, don't think that there are certain ways that are better for me, because I absolutely do. There are lots of things that don't work for me. And if someone is trying to learn the way that I do things, I say that. I'll say, this works really well for me, and this works really well for me, so try these. But other people have good luck with this, and I personally don't like it. I personally don't resonate with that, but other people are doing it and it works for them. And since you're not me, other things might work for you. There's a way to say, this is what works for me, without saying, therefore everything else is wrong. Because that's not true, right? It might be right for other people. There are things that I think are overall wrong. And yes, I see the irony there, because I'm telling this person that they are wrong about the way that they are treating other people. That's wrong. I'm sorry. In no way is that the best way to do things, in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, so I'm not saying that you are not allowed to feel like the way that you do things is the best for you. Of course. You are your own spiritual authority. If you think that's the way that's best for you, that's the way that's best for you. If someone's hurting themselves, really causing harm to themselves, you can try to intervene there. But if it's a difference between the way that you call the elements, or the way that you invoke your allies, or whatever, minor differences like that are not causing any harm, it's just the energy is different for you, it resonates differently, it channels differently, whatever, the way I do it is different than the way you do it. That's okay. So I really, really hope that you would be able to sit down and talk with your mom about this and say, hey, I'm really excited about the way that things are going in my path, and I'd love to be able to do that at home, but I feel really uncomfortable because your friend always tells me that I'm wrong, and I think that's kind of mean. Or, whatever. I'm not you, but I hope that you would be able to have that conversation with your parent, and that they would be open to listening to that, and maybe do something about it, because this is not the way that you want to have to live, right? And you don't want to have to, avoid your home and your family in order to practice the way that you want to. So good vibes to you. Good vibes to all of you. And I will see you next week. Next week we have a really interesting conversation happening that I'm looking forward to. And I'll see you then. Until next time, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.